As you can hear, the officer, while struggling with Mr. Wright, shouts, "Taser, taser," several times. That is part of the officer's training prior to deploying a taser, which is a less lethal device. That is done to make her partners aware, as well as the subject, that a taser deployment will be imminent. During this encounter, however, the officer drew their handgun instead of their taser. For informational purposes, we train with our handguns on our dominant side and our taser on our weak side. So if you're right-handed, you carry your firearm on your right side and you carry your taser on the left. This is done purposefully and is trained. As I watch the video and listen to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I've viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright. I have asked the BCA to conduct an independent investigation into the shooting and death. Once they are completed, I expect they will submit their findings, independent of me, to the appropriate authorities, the appropriate attorneys that will look and review this case.
Ready, set, go.
We are getting a more extensive look at that damage in the morning light. Store windows have been shattered. Cleanup is now underway.
All of this happening as emotions are already high with the trial of Derek Chauvin in the George Floyd case entering a third week of testimony. We have complete breaking news coverage of all of this.
It started yesterday afternoon when Brooklyn Center police say Dante Wright was pulled over for a traffic violation. They say they then learned he had an outstanding warrant. Police then say that Wright started to drive off when an officer shot him and he crashed into another car. His mother says that her son had just called her asking about the car insurance when the police told him to put the phone away.
And I heard the police officer say, "Dante, don't run." And then the other officer said, "Put the phone down," and hung it up. And then a minute later, I called and his girlfriend answered, which was the passenger in the car, and said that he'd been shot, and she put it on the driver's side, and my son was laying there lifeless.
Shooting began. Protesters clashed with police at the scene of the shooting. Here's how it unfolded.
Community members arrived by the dozens to voice their frustrations with police about another deadly officer-involved shooting.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Now!
At times, the two sides stood toe-to-toe, officers silent as protesters shouted for justice. Next, people surrounded police vehicles, jumped on squad cars, and smashed bricks through windows. Officers wearing heavy protection moved in and moved out the crowd. When night fell, the group made its way 2.5 miles down the road. A tense standoff followed outside the police department.
In front of the Brooklyn Center Police Department are dozens of officers in riot gear. Every couple minutes, they take a few steps forward. They were chanting, "Move back, move back."
Protesters retreated to the street and raised their voices. Then every few minutes, police deployed tear gas and flashbangs to move the crowds back. A little before midnight, with reinforcements from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and National Guard as backup, police delivered an order saying the crowd was no longer peacefully gathered and to move out or be arrested.
Shingle Creek Crossing is home to a T-Mobile store, Aspen Dental, Foot Locker, all among those broken into when anger turned unsteady in Brooklyn Center Sunday night. There was a curfew in place until 6 a.m. Monday. The time between a quieter destruction as people broke into shops whose glass was already shattered. GameStop was ransacked several times, and just after 6 a.m., we saw a group of people walk out of a nearby UPS carrying what appeared to be store equipment. When the sun rose, the glass was swept up and trucks arrived to clean up, a process the Twin Cities area has repeated 3 times in 1 year.
Keeping an eye on other businesses. There was a furniture store at 21st and Nicollet that had a window broken and a TV sitting out front, or at least a box that a TV would have been in. The CVS on DuPont and Lagoon had its doors broken. Also, the Target on Fremont and Lake had the first set of doors broken. There was some glass that was all boarded up, but it looks like maybe the second set of doors didn't get breached. And we peeked inside at both the CVS and the Target. It didn't appear to be any damage there. So for the most part, it looks like a lot of broken glass and a lot more boarded up buildings, which is also something of note, Tom and Alex, as you're just driving on Lake Street and Nicollet, to how many businesses still have that plywood up over their windows and doors, so 10, 11 months after the fact.
We saw several stores broken into again, as well as a heavy law enforcement presence. Local community members also stepped up to stand guard over their neighborhood. Also in Minneapolis, 2 people were killed in an overnight shooting. This happened just after 2 o'clock this morning. Minneapolis police say that a man was found dead inside a crashed car with a gunshot wound. About a block away, officers found a second person shot dead in the street, and then later, a third person showed up at the hospital, also with a gunshot. Investigators say there were several shooting calls overnight. These were the only fatalities.
One of the most important things is communication.
Yeah.
And,
and knowing you're not alone. You're not alone.
Fellowship. And to know we're not alone. Exactly that.
Take care, fisherman in a box.
Yeah.